I want to sit there, I want to embody it, and I want to show that it's possible. I want to experience and express the valuable qualities that we can have. And I don't want to do it proudly. I just want to do it simply. I think a lot of people will probably hear this as want for pride in a role. I'm just trying to reevaluate the role and revalue it.
I'm thinking of the Benihana chef with the knives flying in the air and the fucking
flipping the eggs.
Flipping the eggs and all that bullshit. Why? Because, the quality of the fish and the steak on the grill is like, it's not all that.
Yeah.
A serious sushi chef, it's not about that. It's not about knives flying in the air. It's about the quality of the produce and the quality of the fish and presenting it and expressing it. What's up?
What up?
We are here.
We are here with another conspicuous box.
For those who've been following.
Yeah.
Should we start with the conspicuous box?
I do. I think we should open the conspicuous box.
Did you bring this again?
I did. Last time
we're not showing up with the boxes.
I'm showing up with mini kebab. Come on.
Yeah, y'all doing different things.
Come on.
Rory is recording this thing over there. Jon is taking care of the food, and I bring a conspicuous box every 6 weeks. Last time it was Rafa Performance logo hoodies,
which I'm wearing. And love
to keep us warm up here. And today we have.
I want it to be Rafa Speedo swim caps.
It's not Speedo. It's a much smaller box.
Rafa Speedos.
But we have 4 copies of Seth Godin's new book.
Oh, fuck,
Practice.
dude, that's huge. I wanted to order that. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's so cute.
Wait, fuck.
Yeah,
dude,
so there's one
that's
for
so sick.
Rory, one for Jon, one for Michael, which will go out. And
oh, man, dude, that's so thoughtful.
Yeah, it's called The Practice, Shipping Creative Work, and it's all about getting over yourself and fucking getting the shit done, man. I've been listening to every interview with Seth Godin that I can find about this book that he's done in the last month, and my brain has been exploding. I just feel like he has put into words what we are attempting to figure out here. So
yeah,
it's really so powerful.
Good. He's super high level.
Today I listened while I walked to that episode again, second time. For anyone who wants an introduction to Seth Godin, the Chase Jarvis live show podcast. I'd never listened to it before Seth was on it. And it's like 3 or 4 episodes back. Seth Godin, Imposter Syndrome.
Yeah, that's the one.
Scrolling here very slowly. So, and then if you want Seth's own podcast, it's called Akimbo. And just do the first season. Just do the first couple of episodes. They're short. They're really pop and easy too. They're sort of thematic. Each one is its own episode, and they're really, really easy and fun and thought-provoking. But we just got his book.
Wow, what a gift.
And if Michael was here, there'd already be a picture up on Instagram, but he's not, so.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. Wow.
I can't tell you how hard I've been vibing on these interviews. I'm not a great reader. I'm dyslexic. It's hard for me to read, but taking in interviews with people who've written books helps me understand what they're about, what the points are, like the main stuff I would get from reading. And the stuff he's saying about like imposter syndrome, we all sort of like just accept this concept as a thing, and his take on it's really refreshing. He's like, well, if you're doing something new that's innovative, nobody's ever done it. This thing we call imposter syndrome is just like, it's just doubt about something that doesn't exist yet. Like, it's not that insidious.
You mean like mixing with a full range of low end without filtering everything up till radio frequencies?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Well, mixing it is easy. Sending it to the client. You know what I mean? It's like writing, you can write it at home, but actually sending it to your buddy to read.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yep.
Taking the shots and putting them up on Instagram, whatever that is for you. And his take on that about the utility of shipping your work, of getting it out into the world.
His thing about his blog, right? He's mostly known for his blog initially, and he's 20 years ago decided he was going to write a blog every day. He was going to release a blog every day. And his thing is like, well, I'm going to put out a blog tomorrow, not because I feel like it, not because I'm in a good mood. It's because it's tomorrow, you know, and it's like this whole thing about getting yourself on the hook, you know, and following through.
Yeah.
I find really appealing.
I mean, let's be real. That's why we're here tonight. I mean, I didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to do the last two. I'm having a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, I said it to Sydney leaving the house tonight. I was like, I don't think I have this in me. I was like feeling sorry for myself in the garage and sort of just like, and she was like, you have to do it. And I was like, we have to do it. Yeah, we absolutely have to do it. And I'll be glad I did.
It
Yeah.
It really appeals to me that we decide to show up for our community. You know, it's my week is now revolving around Wednesday evenings.
Yes.
And a couple other, you know, fixed things I do every week. And, you know, I like having something that I need to show up for that's bigger than me. I think I find meaning in it now, and I think that meaning will only grow as long as, you know, it remains a positive thing for me over time.
Yeah.
But I like that I don't have a question in my mind about if I'm going to show up and record a podcast on Wednesday at 7. It's just, that's what we're doing. As much as possible.
Do you want to,
within reason.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Seth's feelings on writer's block? You might be able to share a bit of that more than I can, but that's part of it.
Yeah. His thing about writer's block, he's got these
pretty fascinating.
He's got like a wood etching thing in his little shop at his house or whatever, and he made these maple wooden blocks that say there's no such thing as writer's block on them, sort of burned in with a laser or something.
Yeah.
His thing about writer's block is like, it's not really a thing. It's just fear of bad writing. And when he asks people, you know, if they're struggling with their writing, he's like, show me your bad writing, you know, and they usually can't do it. You know, it's like, you have to be willing to just show up every day and write bad shit until you can't help but write something good by accident at some point.
I mean, every songwriter, every beat maker, every producer, everybody in a creative field says it took 100 bad ideas to have one good one.
That's
right?
it.
So writer's block, just get to it.
Yeah.
Make it bad. Let it be bad. I mean, I'm guilty of this. I don't journal because I'm afraid that everything I write has to be smart and interesting versus like no one's ever going to read this. So I could just write bullshit down. And Michael's been coaching me and trying to get me to do it. And I tried to do it the other day, and I just started writing a poem. And I was like, ugh, no one wants to read my poem. But who's going to read the poem? It's my poem. I don't have to share the poem.
It's not even about that.
It's not about that. But I don't. I don't have that. That differentiation between it's for me or for others. I only do things for others, it seems like. When it comes to output, I don't really do things for me. I like to share. I like this shipping creative work. I love the idea. That's why I chose mixing over production, is that most things that I mix came out. Most things that I produced never saw the light of day. It's on a hard drive. Some good shit, some terrible shit. But most, if not all of the stuff I mix comes out. Shipping the work. And I'm not afraid for the feedback. Someone might tell me there's too much low end. Someone might say it sounds dark, and I can be like, that was a bad day. I was tired that day. I made it overly bright. Who cares? It doesn't even matter at that point. It's out. It's shipped.
Yeah.
And then it's up to someone to decide to hire me again, and that's whatever. You know. But shipping work, I'm so sorry. I'm just looking at this book. Like, I wanted to buy it. I don't know why you didn't pull the trigger on it, and you.
I was hoping you guys didn't.
I almost did.
I figured. You know, I didn't want to talk about it too much this week. There's this other book that
we're just so into the practice. You know, that's what we always talk about. That word is in my vocabulary every day, multiple times a day. It's like, what are we practicing?
It's almost surreal how close to home this hits.
Yeah.
How much of this, you know, in the unfuck process of, you know, understanding where people are in their careers and what they actually want is like fundamental to Seth's work. I mean, it's
well, he's basically trying to make people understand that anybody can do it and there should be minimal excuses to it, right? He said something I'd highly disagree with because, you know, Rory, when you came over tonight and we sat down and had dinner tonight, you spoke highly of the Live with Matt Rad, specifically because I brought my honesty to the table and that I was having a bad day. And in this recent Seth Godin interview, he's like, nobody wants to hear about your shitty day. You need to perform. You need to give people what they want. And I was like, all right, you know, to a degree, I agree with you. It depends on, you know, how many people are actually viewing this right now. Like with Matt Rad and I might be 50 people. Like, I just don't know how to not be vulnerable. I just want to. I'm practicing it. Back to the practice. I'm practicing the idea that vulnerability has a higher potential of connecting to people rather than me faking it till I make it. Right.
I think it's contextually different.
Is it?
That's not an either or. Your product is your honesty.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
You shipped the product yesterday. It just happened that the flavor of donut that day was, whatever, mint julep instead of jam, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the flavor of the donut yesterday was John's had a rough week.
Right.
But the product is honesty. You and Matt, sometimes the honesty is you don't need Waves plugins. Sometimes the honesty is you should get a manager. Sometimes the honesty is I'm having a shitty week. I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But yesterday was the first time you guys sort of went into that deeper water, that more vulnerable space, and it had a different character. And you were more real, I think, by doing it. And Matt, it brought out a side of Matt that I was really impressed by. We texted last night about it. I mean,
nice.
It was. I mean, he impresses me more and more every time I meet him and talk to him and watch him work.
And eat.
It kind of annoys
lobster and clams.
Well,
and crab and
seafood orgy. It kind of annoys me how much he's got his shit together at his age, but he did really well because you gave him the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
You could have played it safer, and
I thought I was going to.
Yeah,
that was my plan.
Yeah, you could have.
If I would have a plan.
And he wouldn't have had the canvas to work on that he did. And you both showed up. So I thought it was a new level for what you're doing there.
These blurbs are really, you see these blurbs on the back?
You want to read one?
There's three. Okay, this one, Seth's book is a skeleton key specifically molded to unlock the most creative version of you. Read it and find yourself free to be who you know you really are, right? This is Brian Koppelman, the creator of Billions TV show.
That guy's great to listen to speak to.
This one, this is the book I need right now. It's an extraordinary and electrifying call to action for writers, artists, and creators in every walk of life. I reread passages and felt as if my own secret creed was being explained back to me. See what I'm saying? In words I hadn't yet found. Roseanne Cash.
Grammy-winning singer-songwriter.
Right. And the other one is from the author of The War of Art, which I brought up last week or the week before, a book that Rogan's been talking about a lot, which really is about showing up. And when Seth brings up this book, in some of these interviews, and he's like, I don't know how I didn't hear about this book, for so long or whatever. This, it's dead on. He says, Stephen Pressfield, the author of The War of Art, he says, the practice is a user's manual for finding your calling, an alchemist's handbook for pursuing your dream. Anyway, these are, just a glimpse into the brilliance. When I think about people like Seth Godin, I think about all of this hard work that he's done. He's sort of trailblazed in this sort of identity, branding, marketing, self-realization. He runs workshops and different marketing seminars and things, and all of that work is benefits other people. You know what I mean? It's not like he spent all of that time just amassing wealth, or he's come up with ideas that so many people find beneficial, and when they apply them, they are happier. Mm-hmm. And to me, this is just the sweet spot for human existence. His thing about solving interesting problems, helping someone solve an interesting problem for themselves so that then they are able to do the same for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I just find it to be so sort of generous and humane, and just a uplifting kind of way of going about your work and your life's work.
Yeah. We don't need a $150 million house in Bel Air. We need...
Speak for yourself.
Well, we need enough...
That's a lot.
We need enough money and security that we can be present with our clients when we work. Yeah. If we're worried about paying the mortgage or paying healthcare or whatever it is, and we can't actually be in the room, be present, that's a problem. But once we get those bases covered and we're saving for retirement and we're paying healthcare and we've got a car and maybe we get a vacation, then we can. I know it sounds crazy.
I know.
I haven't had one in a minute.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can do good work and serve people and get that feedback loop of energy. We had an incredible meeting this morning. I don't think we should say the client's name.
Yeah, probably
not yet, but it was, I mean, just incredible. This woman was incredible. I don't know what else to say about her. She just was inspiring and fun and energetic and visionary and
in touch,
like effortlessly concise in the most comfortable, easy language about what she was about. There was no high-minded bullshit. It was just like, what you just said in one sentence what took us 4 episodes to say.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Like a Seth Godin devotee, like precise, boiled down, simple language.
Yeah.
Can I get an example of this since I wasn't there? What are we trying to say in 4 episodes that was said in a few sentences?
Conversation. It was thought after thought.
Is there a way to distill that? Because that would probably be good for our...
Just the vibe, like what writing sessions should be like.
She's going to come on. We asked her to do the podcast. But this energy, the sense of possibility and clarity of purpose and sort of joyful approach to it was just like, I mean, we just floated out of it was just like, that was incredible. And kind of like, who do we have to pay to be a part of this journey? Like, you know what I mean? It was really something.
Attractive. Yeah.
Very, 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 not a new feeling, but definitely a new level to what we're doing, just in terms of exciting.
Yeah.
Genuinely exciting. So, looking forward to seeing that project move forward. It's an unfucked studio project. But I think we'll be learning as much as we're teaching.
I look forward to getting her on the podcast. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
There'll be more to say about it. The requirements for the studio are kind of specific and they're tricky. There are some interesting and
opposing
tricky constraints.
Forces. Yeah.
We've got enough room to do what we need to do, space-wise, just about. We've got enough room to do what we need to do money-wise, time-wise. I think we've got what we need. It's just, it's quite an ambitious goal.
And
I'm so curious.
It's an interesting puzzle for Ruairi.
What?
Just the vision for what the studio will feel like and look like and how it will be used is very 21st century. The sense of the future of the music business to this woman was so light and present and right there. She was holding it between her hands, and it felt like everybody else seemed like they were moving in slow motion in relation to her. Like this kind of like, well, we'll meet in capital A and the assistant engineer will call, it was just like it all seemed very of a different era. Lumbering. She was sort of dancing and pirouetting across the future. Like it was very, I don't know how to describe it. It was very clear and easy for her to articulate where the music business is going and how different avenues, visual design and photography and multimedia video, how they would meet in a studio setting, and what it means to have an interesting vocal booth.
Yeah.
Like, but even just that, right? That moment where we discussed tracking vocals in the control room or in the booth. And to most people, that's this sort of dogma. It was like, well, the modern way is we do it in the room, right? The vocalist is standing behind me. Or, no, I need a booth, bro. Like, I've had this conversation where people are like, you can't make a record without a booth. And it's like, to me, it's kind of case by case.
Yeah.
Her take on it was just this like, I mean, it was just like, can we get on the mic? Like, it was so like easy and effortless. It was kind of like, well, we'll make the booth like amazing and inspiring and interesting, but there'll always be a mic up here that's always hot. And I was just like, yes, let's like press record.
It was just yes, everything.
Incredible. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It's just natural.
Very little resistance in the thinking.
And it wasn't intellectualized. It was then you said it. It was like you take a cork out of a champagne bottle. It was just this effortless spring of energy and joy and musicality, I think.
And optimism. There was so much optimism baked into her whole view of everything. Like the instruments she chose, like the house she chose. It's, I think like we have this sort of philosophical view of the industry and the way things work, and we try to pick things apart, understand them, put them back together, put some of it into action in the people around us, and try some of these things out. And there's been a lot of success that's come from it. And this was like Rory and I, the two philosopher dudes who theorize about it all, and here's somebody actually doing it. And it was just like...
I mean, I just want to step in and say, speak for yourselves, because I made a decision to move out of a studio complex to something that would never be considered a studio, and there's hundreds of records of getting mixed a year. Right?
There's a reason you're at the table.
Of course.
It's not just because
it's hilarious to think about. Like,
she's not the only person in the world putting this into action.
Yeah,
it's just interesting for because I haven't actually.
Because the minute you theorize, that's the minute you're not creating something, right? So like it has to be theorized to a degree. I mean, we do that,
well, I'm not being, just see the analogy through for a second. I'm not being grandiose about it, because we don't see ourselves this way. But imagine two professors from a university, with all their high-minded ideas of philosophy, going out to India and having their ass handed to them by just this peaceful, happy guru sitting on a rock, like where everything is just laughing and giggling and kind of like the we talked about last week, the guy that we went to see with Sam,
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.
I forget the first name.
And sort of just feeling like, we haven't been thinking about it too much, but it was just so much fun to see it just fully actualized. And big ideas were met with yes.
I mean, it makes me think of everything. Like now I'm understanding what you mean by it took us 4 episodes to distill down what maybe was said in a few sentences, because what's being described to me, and I wasn't in the room, is the lack of resistance we all want from the creative process, right? So do you want to do it in the booth? Do you want to do it in the room? Like whatever you say, it's already ready, and that's the minimal resistance is, okay, you got an idea? Let's try it. And it's hard to imagine a creative room without that looseness and that experimentary attitude, right? And it starts with the room, right? So you go in and you're imagining like, oh, we're gonna just make a room, and someone's like, no, I want a room, but I want to be able to do all of these things in the room at the same time, or interchangeably, or I mean, I wish I was there to have a better language, and I can imagine. I mean, I could imagine my version of what all this would look like too, if I was as successful as this person and had access to this. Like I could make a perfect mixed scenario kind of version of it.
And when she said, she's talking about the studios they have in New York, her publishing thing, and studios in Europe and whatever. It was like, and then she's talking about all the engineers and then the managing all the engineers so that they can be. And she's like, we're creating this ecosystem of da-da-da-da. And my brain was like...
We've been talking about this for years.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just seeing it. It was so validating of all the sort of theorizing. And the small implementations of these other things, this, especially in the writing context, because I'm not as in touch with like the writing scene as I used to be, right? So it's not, I see more mixing, more production. We've set up some writing rooms, and we've been in a room with some writers, but it's not, it's just less firsthand sort of impact in the sort of theorizing that we do, and then the implementation. So to see someone on a separate track that we're not in direct contact with, who sort of intuited, and I don't know, this for me is like personally validating, and to see it working,
I also
very cool.
I also know we're not prescriptive here, or try not to be, but I'm going to prescribe the need for you to wear the suit you're wearing now to every unfuck gig.
Yeah.
I think that the professor analogy that Rory was treading on would be more.
I don't know. I think your tweed jacket was more professorial than my.
I love that tweed jacket.
My high-tech black suit.
I'm obsessed with that tweed jacket.
It's nice on you. especially with the beret.
It's a woman's sizing too, so it's a little oversized on that larger.
Nice.
It doesn't feel too proper. It's nice.
Unstructured.
Yeah, like large woman size blazer. It's nice. Yeah, unstructured.
These are new sentences on. I mean, this is really exciting, new terrain. You know, for the podcast, maybe for humans, completely. You know?
Well, I'm happy that today was so inspiring for you. I was distracting myself with errands all day, which is rare. I don't really leave the arts district very much, but I drove all over today. Got some pants hemmed, picked up a pair of shoes from the cobbler. Yeah, that's that face.
In 1987? What are you driving, a DeLorean?
No, today.
Yeah.
Mike's Shoe Repair in Brentwood.
In the English countryside.
And you know, trying to distract the brain from thinking about what it's wanting to fixate on, which also I spent a lot of time doing and kind of made some headway on. But today was definitely not an inspiring day.
So we would be remiss to not give you an opportunity to talk about the week that you've had, and you don't have to say anything that you don't want to, but you addressed it on Matt Rad that you've been having a funky week, and sort of what that meant for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything? Is there anything to? I mean, you're not in a funk right now, so maybe it's irrelevant.
I'm not sure the utility of going too far into it.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that I'm, you know, going through a breakup of sorts that I'm unsure of the outcome I desire from it. And that's the tricky part is when you're not getting clarity from it. And you're questioning if it was the right decision or not, even though it was your decision. It's, you know, it's just a tough place to be. But
this human place.
Yeah, it's a real human place. And as for me, this week work has been slowed. And work is you know, we talked about earlier in a few podcasts ago with Rory that like work, you know, you consider yourself a workaholic. I guess I would too. I don't like identity in general, so I don't want to identify as a workaholic. But I haven't been able to distract myself with work because I'm all caught up. And it's Thanksgiving week, so it's usually a bit of a slow week, just historically for me. It's been pretty crazy up until now all year with COVID and with a new relationship, and I'm kind of settling into, wait, did I miss something along the way? Kind of powering through this and maybe taking for granted having some love in a pandemic, and I'm just not sure that the decision I made was correct based on maybe not giving it a full attempt. You know, during that time. So that's the tricky part that is causing the fog in the brain.
Yeah.
Though, yesterday on Live with Matt Rad was fun, and we got into talking about the, you know, my career pivot and how excited I am.
You dropped the bomb on people,
and it felt real, and it was real, and I'm going through it, and I'm getting excited about that. And the producer I'm going to go do that with is also, we're talking every day, and we're talking about possibilities. I mean, our joint manager is already trying to book gigs with clients that I can't even imagine being considered to work with. Like
epic artists.
Epic.
Epic. Yeah. We were talking today with our client about another mutual client who is a genuinely dangerous individual, like someone that we do not know what she will do next. I haven't worked with her in more than a minute, but incredible story, right? I mean, we don't need to name her, it doesn't matter. But just the idea, how few people in our, you know, we talk about music supposed to be, the music industry or music in general is supposed to be this creative, edgy, innovative, inventive space. And yet so much of what happens is incredibly predictable. There are very few truly dangerous people in the space. You know, and certainly like rock and roll is not dangerous anymore. You know, for a minute it was kind of hip hop was genuinely dangerous. And I don't just mean like guns dangerous. I mean, creatively, you didn't, you know, nobody knew when Kanye was at his best, nobody knew what he was going to do next. Yeah. Now we don't know what he's going to do next, but the likelihood of it being good is lower. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But for a minute, he was truly dangerous.
Well, the likelihood of it being profound is a little bit lower. It's always going to be at somewhat good.
Yeah.
He's got QC on, you know, on lock. Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah. No, he's a insanely talented human. Yeah. But that idea of true, my point is that the idea that you're kicking around, that you're exploring, feels dangerous to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Me too.
truly dangerous.
Me too.
Like, and I love it. Like it is absolutely, it's super exciting, and it is. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for us. I'm excited for the fans. I'm excited for the artist who gets in the room with you. If nothing comes of this, and next Monday morning you text us and say, you know what, guys, just got a whole bunch of mixed work. I'm in the saddle for the next 3 months.
We should probably reiterate what it is.
That's not going to happen.
Anyone.
What do you mean?
No, I mean,
I know your point, but that's impossible. I'm too excited, and I don't really backtrack from ideas that I kind of come up with. It's just kind of.
I think you should lean into it too. But my point is that the openness to exploring this and to feeling it and visualizing it, it's very invigorating for me.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it to each other and we talk about it to other people, it's like we can't help but light up.
Yeah.
It's like it's fucking crazy. It's great.
It's better. You want to do the reiteration?
Well, yeah. I mean, for anybody who wasn't listening to Matt and wasn't listening to us live last week,
claim our part in it, because this is if it goes on to be like Abbey Road, we need to be.
We need to be.
I want the record
nexus,
to show
to start with.
Oh,
us.
I claim your part in it every time I talk about it too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, overstate our part. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know. Big us up. Big us up. Big look. No, we had a unfuck session, like a workshop with writer producer who we love and who we know pretty well. At least I do.
I didn't. It was new to me.
New to Ruairi. I've known this individual a while. I wouldn't say I know him well.
And I know him well for about a decade.
And John knows him well for about a decade. So that's proxy knowing, as far as I'm concerned. So we dove in. We went for the jugular, and what came out of that workshop about his moment in his career and what his studio life means inspired Jon to also having been inspired by the recent loss of Bruce Swedien and his relationship to Quincy Jones, Jon had this spark of inspiration to become this producer's engineer for projects start to finish as a team, to create a sound, to have a point of view, and to claim the engineering of an entire record from beginning to end, instead of just mixing stuff and having a sort of difficult to parse sonic statement because of the audio engineering that happened upstream. As mixers, seeing, I don't know how many mixes I've seen come across Tony Maserati's desk. It's got to be thousands.
Yeah, thousands.
Right? Your desk, other mixers' desks, stuff I've mixed. Not all the audio engineering is very good. Or in the service of human connection.
A small percentage,
right?
Let's be
so
real.
As mixers, you see it all funneling in and you have to make sense of it. And so the opportunity for a mixer, especially with the experience that Jon's had for so many years mixing exclusively, to now reach upstream and claim and take control of the engineering from the vibrations happening in someone's vocal cords all the way into the mastering stage. There will be no one else to blame.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like Jon is hanging himself out there to be judged.
Man, even just hearing you say it, I'm getting pumped.
Yeah. But that's the sort of statement part of it, like the risk.
And to restate my take on it, Jon has spent years refining his landings. He is an incredible, steady finisher, a lander. The way you hit the ground and steady yourself and balance yourself is incredible. And to me, the idea that you would now get up on the high wire and encourage your collaborator to take ever greater risks, because it's like, I know how to land this thing. I can, like, it doesn't matter if it's 18 feet down. we're going to land straight and true and square. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need a net. We can take crazy risks because you've seen me develop as someone, lander is a terrible word, but someone who hits the ground with that steady footing. I watched an insane gymnastics video the other day, some Russian athlete, and it was just like this truly, impossible. It looked like CGI, the amount of twists they did in the air, and the landing was just like they had grown out of the ground like a tree. It was just like boom.
Fuck. I know, it's
so satisfying.
So satisfying.
And there was this nanosecond where their brain was catching up with the fact that it had happened, and it was just like this blink, and then like the place went ape shit, and
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling
the
it.
gymnasium.
The coach came over and just bear hugged this person within an inch of their life.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what brought the analogy to mind, is like, you've spent all of this time
sticking the
landings and just getting better and better at it. So the idea that you would now jump up on the high wire and take risks, encourage risks, and just make that spirit contagious to the artist, to me, that's like...
And bring those engineering chops to a process where they are mostly lacking.
Yeah.
Very often lacking, say.
Well, I talked about this on Live with Matt Rad. I'm pretty sure that most engineers, and I'd love pushback on this, most engineers want to be producers. So they get in the room as an engineer or producer, hoping to get a chance to do a production for them, and then they move on into the ranks of producer, and the role of engineer isn't coveted. It isn't valued as high as it used to be. And I want to put myself in the role of the engineer exclusively. I don't want to take a production credit. If I make an arrangement move, I don't even want the credit. I've had this talk with the producer. I don't want it. I don't want to be known for it. I don't want someone to say I don't want to be responsible for it, but I don't want someone to say, "Hey, do you want to come on and produce this record?" The answer is no. I don't want to produce any record, but I want to sit in the chair of the engineer till its last breath of what it means to do that on a record. And I want to sit there, and I want to embody it, and I want to show that it's possible. I want to experience and express the valuable qualities that we can have. And I don't want to do it proudly. I just want to do it simply. And that's like, I think a lot of people will probably hear this as want for pride in a role. I'm just trying to reevaluate the role and revalue it.
It sounds exciting.
It sounds exciting.
Fun.
But I'm thinking of the Benihana chef with the knives flying in the air and the fucking
flipping the eggs,
flipping the eggs and all that bullshit. And why? Because the quality of the fish and the steak on the grill is like, it's not all that.
Yeah.
A serious sushi chef is not there. Yeah, it's oh look, Siri has heard sushi. That's my weird way I say S's. It's not about that. It's not about knives flying in the air. It's about the quality of the produce and the quality of the fish, and presenting it and sort of like that, expressing it,
Yeah, the example I used on Tuesday was producer, songwriters, artists in the room on the couch. They're expressing a vibe. They're talking about a lyric, and then at some point, like, one of them goes, "Man, it'd be really tight if like the drum sounded like Beat It." They had this rhythm to it, this texture, and I'm already in the live room setting up the mics on the drums to do this thing. I'm already pulling up the sound. So when it's time to actually converge on the creation, it's there. It's tangible. It's already the time is done. So the from the beginning of the idea to the completion of it is as fast as possible, and that's what I get excited about.
That lets the humanity come through.
Yeah. And like the technical issues are already worked out. Like by the time the thought and the lyric is ready, so the microphone's on, it's just always warm.
I've been thinking about since you had this inspiration, I've been imagining listening to a final product where the vocal has gone through very few stages on the way to the audience.
Yeah.
You record it the way you want it. It's comped, clip gain, whatever happens. And then it gets into the mix. It goes through the gear and mastering. Like, how few pieces of gear will that vocal go through?
Yeah.
It's sort of...
No, I know. I love that idea.
Yeah.
It makes you think of when I was in writing sessions, with certain producers that, you know, we would spend time comping the timing, and we would I would clip gain, and at the end of it, the producer would be like, "Yo, put that 1176 on and all buttons in mode." I was like, "Well, why did we just like do a nuanced comp of the vocal if we're just gonna smash it so there's no dynamic?" I don't understand why that's the move after what we just did. That could have been the move from the beginning because you just want to hear what that sounds like. But why do we just expend all that energy making a nuanced performance sound really great? Whether it's dense and pop and forward or ballad and dynamic and expressive, those are two, you know, very different types of performances. But why just smash the all buttons in? Just why are we even using that tool anymore? Like, what's the deal with that plugin and that piece of gear? I mean, why?
With the 1176?
Yeah, all buttons in. Like, why? Why do I got to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've explored it on other episodes.
Sounds risky.
The answer,
but it isn't.
The answer, as I think you said it, Spider, you said that people imagine this knob has excitement or engagement or energy written on it, so they turn it to 10, thinking, don't we want more of that? Just like, you know, a steak is good. A steak with a little salt is better. So let's just fucking jam on the salt. Let's just keep pushing the salt button.
It has too much salt.
There can be such a thing as too much salt, right?
Yeah.
I think there's too much salt on this LAPD helicopter.
I know there's a lot of helicoptering right
they
now.
might be landing on the roof. I mean, I don't think this is beyond even Dylan. Yeah. Like, you're gonna, you know, humans are gonna hear this helicopter.
That's okay.
Yeah. RX, Dylan.
It's what it is.
Yeah, we're in DTLA, so
It'll seem quaint when these are like archive recordings that are played back on in 100 years. They'd be like, listen to the helicopter overhead.
Yeah. At the Smithsonian.
I had an idea. I've had lots of ideas because I'm interested in equipment, but I had an idea at one point as a sort of a concept, the idea of building a pair of microphones and a recorder, a stereo pair of microphones that are designed to capture room spaces, you know, room like M50 style, M49 style, tube mics or whatever, Omnis maybe, with a stereo recorder, and building 100 of them and making it a sort of a club, a group of people that would commit to making stereo recordings together for a given period of time.
Oh, wow.
So like for 5 years. So what the idea that I originally had was like the idea of recording artists like a Phoebe Bridgers or an Ethan Gruska or a Rufus Wainwright or whatever underneath like overpasses in LA or in museums at night, but just that it would always be the thrift shop piano. Did we talk about that?
Mm-mm.
So I'm a huge fan of thrift shops and junk markets. So if you know me, like, I'm absolutely in love with Paris. My wife and I probably went to Paris when we lived in Europe, like, I don't know, 8-10 times. And we would go to the beautiful places in Paris, but then we would always spend 1 day apart where I would go to the junk markets on the end of the city, on the edge of the city, called the Puces. There are these antique markets and junk markets, but as you get towards the edge of them, they get really sketchy, and I just love it. I just love rummaging through other people's junk. Like, I really, really do. Old magazines, old photos.
Are you a hoarder?
No.
Okay.
No, not great, but a little bit maybe, but not crazy.
Okay.
But I love that. So the idea of this sort of collective that would commit to, the thrift shop piano. The idea was that whenever I go to a thrift store, I always want to play the piano, and there are always these vibey, weird pianos.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of going to different thrift stores with great artists. So bringing piano player singers to thrift stores and recording them in these spaces. Just like one time, one take, drive to the next thrift store, do what does the piano say to you, and just do it, Tom Waits style.
Yeah.
But there was a reason to jump off.
Sounds like if we had a record label imprint, we can do these live at the thrift shop.
There's crossover with it.
Yeah.
The commitment to capturing it at source, and I think there's something really exciting there. You know, and it's kind of old fashioned. It's what we talked about last week, where we go in A rooms and studios in LA or New York, and we think these sound really bad, but the live rooms sound incredible because that's where all the action happened.
I mean, my goal from being the engineer from the beginning would be to make those moments feel like what you're talking about, where the inspiration was captured, but it feel dry, focused, and modern, and not like a '60s record or a '30s record or something, right?
It can be whatever. Yeah,
well, it can be be competitive in whatever decade where we're releasing or creating in, but we want to capture that moment. That's what it's all about. And I do think that an engineer should, their goal should be to capture that every time. And that's having foresight to what's about to come. And that's not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs until you're told what to do.
A lot of engineers are in a different mode. They're in a safety mode. They're in a make no mistakes mode. They're in, we'll put an extra few mics up here just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Because the mixer might want them. It's like, I don't know, you could call the mixer and ask him what he wants or what she wants. A lot of people are in a sort of a different mode with engineering. The idea that engineering could be the fuel for artistry, could be the inspiration or the space which allows people to take more risks. You know, I remember talking to an artist that I had a giant falling out with after, a very well-known Oscar-winning artist. And he was telling me the story of working with another producer that I've since spent time in the room with, who is an incredible, legendary sort of legacy producer, English guy, and don't need to name either of them for the story. But legendary producer, signed young rock artist, and he had this giant, throaty kind of, not Chris Cornell level, but like a very big, dynamic vocal. He would go from whisper on the mic to big. And the producer just said, you can't do that. Like, that's not going to work. You need to dial it back. Which, knowing the producer now, doesn't seem like a conversation that could have happened, but apparently this is what the artist said happened. But he looked back on these records and felt constrained, felt like that they don't reflect him as an artist, these early records that were made, so we've seen 1,000 examples of that, where engineers are injecting fear or doubt or control or minimizing risk into a creative situation. Let's do another one to have it. It's like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
That means that what you just did is not enough. It's not good enough. I don't trust it. And tomorrow you're going to feel less than because of what I just said now. You know what I mean? It's a whole knock-on series of effects from this indecision or insecurity, or even it might just be care and love that's expressed poorly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's the idea? What's helpful about telling someone to hold back? Like, don't give me everything you got. Don't give me your all.
I don't,
Versus the idea of, okay, maybe this is supposed to feel more tense and restrained, so let's lay on your back and put the microphone up to your face while you're laying on.
It sounds like a technical problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's
it's just overhead, like headroom, like from going from whisper to shouting.
Lots of ways to do it.
And right away, I'm like, set up two mics.
Two
What the
chins,
fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
Knowing this particular artist,
who knows what actually happened?
Yeah, I would. And knowing the producer's sense,
two
which is
mics,
really weird.
or record the sections differently. Sing.
And
no,
there's a million ways to do it. No, the point of the story was that the artist, whether it was real or not, the artist felt constrained. And it inhibited.
Probably constrained by the presence in the room of the person recording the vocal.
Intimidated by and the dude is intimidating. He tore me a new one time over something unrelated, and it was probably the biggest bollocking I've ever had in LA from a client.
What's that word?
Bollocking. Bollocking, is that no?
No.
You know what bollocks are?
Bollocks, yeah.
Yeah, balls.
Yeah.
A bollocking is just getting your ass handed to you. Like
nice.
Someone ripping you a new one.
I just wanted you to clarify that. It sounded fun, yeah.
Yeah, there's more where that came from. Yeah.
You want to give us another one right now? No, okay.
No, they'll come up when they come up.
No, Jon, I really like this, in this moment in the culture of audio engineering, to make a commitment like this, to sort of step away from this pipeline of mix work to focus on the craft of recording, to claim it, to own it, and take responsibility for it, focus on it, in order to build something bigger later. Even if there's a dip in income next year, it's forward thinking and it's bold and it excites me.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. I'm not afraid to make less money next year because of it.
Yeah.
I'm just not afraid. That's a bad motivator. The motivation comes from the idea of having a little bit more sonic control from start to finish on a project and really shaping the sound of records. And, I do my best to do that when I can.
You influence.
I just
your
don't
clients.
ever really get headroom. So,
Yeah.
that's not a figure of speech. I mean, I literally get very little headroom. I have to create headroom. Why don't I just start with headroom? And
I don't know where I would be in music if I hadn't had these experiences in live situations with artists up close and seeing it happen raw.
Right.
yeah,
I don't know that I would, actually don't know that I'd still be doing it if I hadn't witnessed that raw energy and art.
Up close and in person.
Up close, I mean,
Yeah.
things that I've seen that just were I remember watching the band Elbow.
Sure.
Yeah, and just
Scottish band.
just like breaking down in tears in the middle of a sound check.
yeah,
Because it was just overwhelming. Standing on the stage and it's just surrounding you. Talk about Atmos. You know what I mean? It's like there's a quartet and a 6-piece band, and it was just, for where I was on that day in that place with that band and the people who they were, it just was overwhelming. And that reference point of that experience, you carry that with you into mastering a record on next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I still have that in my body. The feeling of it, the stage moving and the emotional sort of wave breaking over you.
I've experienced, like, in the songwriting production room. I think about this every time I enter a mix, but I've experienced profound first takes. That the whole first take, maybe you comp one word in or out. It's just that's the performance. And then taking a step back from that, I've had that happen, and the artist or the producer being like, we could do better. And you're like, wait, what? What do you mean? I just started crying. Like, this is the most emotive performance I've been a part of in, the 200 sessions I did this year or whatever it was. And I want to now be in a position to influence the choice to make that the take, right? Because I think artists tend to be more willing to accept first takes than producers are. The artist's like, I nailed it. That was great. Felt great. And the engineer's like, what did you say before? Like,
just in case.
Just in case, let's do another one.
Yeah.
And instead of instilling the confidence in everybody in the room to say, that was crazy. Did you all feel that? Because I felt that. And I just want to make sure that I'm not.
And there's someone on the couch who looks up from their phone, huh?
Yeah. Let that person stay on the couch.
exactly.
They can
Get them out of the room.
But I want to at least offer up the opportunity to retain that performance, and that has inspired me in the past, and then really emotionally killed me when that take doesn't make the record, and then the record comes out. So when I'm mixing records now, I can hear the comp. I can hear, this sounds like one take of a verse. Like, I can hear the bits and pieces. I kind of know what it's like to be there. So I'm just walking it back. I'm just getting to start from the ground up and be there from the beginning to the end. I mean, I honestly can't think of something more exciting in my line of work than this. Because, like, just seeing both sides and spending so much time on this finishing, this landing side, as you put it, which I kind of like. I mean, it's like thinking about a lunar landing. I mean, there's so much pressure on you. Gonna bring that joystick over the right, that was the Sylvian Patai Marcinet White Burgundy you were drinking tonight, coming out a little bit there.
It's pretty tasty.
But the configuration of what Jon's talking about here, I think, is important to point out, because you're talking about a writer-producer who's very good at what he does. You're talking about artists who are good at what they do, and you being an engineer that's good at engineering together, right? What comes up a lot is that young independent, say, mix engineers are getting mostly not great performances, not great sounding tracks to work with. So they are training their whole career training to fix, not to mix.
Yep.
And suddenly, if they are in the presence of a great artist, they have no practice. at standing out of the way. They have practice of being heavy-handed and squeezing the vibe out of something.
8 plugins later.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, where did that start?
And homogenizing,
Yes.
making things sound legit, wide, loud, present, whatever, pick your buzzword. They have that experience of taking things that are rustic and weird and broken and unfinished or imperfect and making them legit sounding.
Well, yeah, what if you're suddenly in a room with beautiful instruments and great players and great gear and you have no experience? You're an audio engineer, but you have no experience doing that.
Or the opposite, bad instruments, weird singers, and just that moment that just happens.
Right.
That's just human and artistic, and it isn't always capital A with first call players.
Of course not. Yeah. It's just to illustrate.
Are you actually an audio engineer if you've never done what you're talking about doing?
That's a good question. You're a fixer.
Yeah. I don't know. If you've never
It's kind of engineering. I mean,
yeah.
It's your responsibility to deliver a thing. I mean, it's
So-
audio engineering of a type.
Of a type, yeah.
It's not great. It's not greatness.
We want to be very careful here to be compassionate to people who haven't had the opportunity.
I know, but we're supposed to ask harder questions.
Yeah,
so
no, I'm
I'm
not dismissing what you guys are saying at all.
I'm looking in the table of contents in Seth's book, The Practice, and the third to last one is get better clients. If young people don't know that they should be climbing a ladder of client quality and deliberately seeking it out, then how's it going to happen?
Can you offer your compassion? I want you to finish your thought.
Well, just that people often don't have access in their, I came up in a place where it was hard to get access to. There was a lot of good music, but in terms of great artists and great musicians and great rooms, it was hard. There was way less of it than there is here, right?
Of course.
And all of the issues that Spider described, the sort of maladaptive, I'll multiband this and I'll dynamic EQ that.
I'm not blaming anybody.
No, I'm not saying that you are.
I am.
We're all trying to make the most.
Yeah. But what I'm interested in is something that we try and do via the Unfuck work, which is and we spoke to a client yesterday, and I had a call with him maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and he was about to push the button on some very expensive speakers, 25 grand of speakers. And it was going to be, as I remember it, and I could be mixing up clients, so forgive me if you're listening and I'm misremembering the story. But as I remember it, it was going to be on a credit card, or most of it. Like I've got the headroom, or like a Sweetwater credit thing, right? And he was like, I've got the headroom to do this, so I'm just going to do it because I want to get better. And the case I made at the time, and we sort of reiterated yesterday, was maybe better is putting the speakers you have in the right position in the room, doing some treatment, and then having the headroom to take a gig that doesn't pay with a great artist, or develop an artist, or go along with a producer on a production to find the unique voice of that production, even if it isn't immediately obvious, as opposed to taking on some debt and then having to service it by doing the next mix that comes through the door. Hey, I've got a Mexican banda music record.
Yes.
It's like, well,
Yes to
I
everything,
got that
Mo.
credit card to pay off.
Yeah.
So quite often freedom, you need, it isn't just a matter of having great artists in front of you. You can create opportunities, but you need to make wise decisions in the lead up, so that you've got the freedom to do it. So, starting out and buying the Neve Pre and the baller gear, the 1176, renting, say, a commercial space and feeling legit, feeling like the avid artists, the 3 of them. You got to get 3 because, you've got 24 fingers. That whole mode of feeling like, well, when I have this, then I'm legit, and then I can,
And people will
then
take
I
me,
can,
I'll
I
get
hang
more
out my
clients
shingle.
and-
I wonder how accurate you are in that last bit, because I still wonder if people really take the people that fake mix on a console more seriously than someone like me who's up here in like a hybrid setup, or someone like Tony. I mean, like, did they?
Some people do, but they're not the people that you want to work with. Not you. They're not they're not they're looking for the wrong thing. So
Agreed.
So let's say, for example, that there are, and I've, there are people who as part of eating a meal want to watch the chef juggle knives. They're not the right client for, a great sushi restaurant, right? They're not going to Nobu or whatever.
Yeah.
They're looking for something else. There's a place for both. Benihana's doing their thing and have done for a long time and will continue to.
I love your use of Benihana multiple times.
It's going to end up in the title of this episode, I'm sure.
Maybe. But it's the gulf is pretty apparent. That's why I'm using it. Right?
I see what you're saying.
So there's a place for all of these things, but I think in speaking to our audience, or maybe people who share some of our values, we're looking to what we're pointing to is that sometimes the way forward is not obvious. It isn't, you imagine my inspiration, the guy that I look up to has this, so I should get that, And sometimes it's like what you need is no credit card debt so that you can develop an artist like the artist that broke this mixer, or, and it's not as obvious, and it's certainly not talked about by the people who sell gear or run forums or on Pensado's place, for example. It's not, and it's one of the many themes that we're exploring here, and we come at it in different ways. So that's the point of my.
I mean,
I've been that kid, and compassion for those.
Yeah. I'm relating to that internally now. You're making me think about a lot of things, because I've even now I'm conditioned to the survivalist mentality of saying yes to most things. A lot of the times now it's because I have a relationship with someone. I want to hook up the homie with a rate on something, or A&R I've been working with on a lot of projects. They're asking me to do a new artist. So, there's a lot of room to want to negotiate. And there's not a lot of no, even though I have the headroom and the bandwidth to say no, where I want to do other things. And I'm still not there yet, just in a mental space. It's something that I know a lot of people struggle with and don't openly discuss. So I'm going to just discuss it, that I say yes to most things, even though I tell myself I'm going to say no. And I had another friend that I'll keep their name out of, but was DMing me on Instagram about, and he's an extremely successful mix engineer. Like, man, it's a struggle to survive and pay rent on studio and home. And I just keep saying yes to things, and I don't want to do all of them, but I still do it. And like, is that something that you decide early on? Is that something you grow out of? Like, I think my decision to pivot is my way of doing that. Like, I'll be forced to say no. There's no way I can be in the room for 3 months on a project and mix something I don't want to do. And the producer that I'll be working with has already agreed that he does not want to stop or infringe upon the growth of my mix business. But I think that comes with the pressure to decide which mixes are more important than the others for me, which ones am I a better fit for. And that's going to force me into that pattern of saying no, because I'm going to have to. And I think that that's a practice that everyone should attempt for whatever reason that they choose to. And I know it's hard, and especially we're discussing this during a pandemic, and you gotta, who knows what the next year or two are going to look like. You're trying to grab at whatever you can and hold on to it, for a lot of us. And I'm sitting here, like I mentioned earlier, going through the potential end of a relationship, and I have a pretty quiet week of work, and I'm wanting this quiet week of work. I don't want to work today. I'm caught up. I have the holidays coming up. Like, I'd be down if no other mixes. I mean, granted, I just got booked for a couple of things for next week, but I'd be happy if no mixes came for the rest of the year. And I got to really sit with this, with me, myself, and this relationship situation, and this new career decision that we've just been discussing for the last half hour, going in next year, kind of mentally preparing. Well, what does it look like? Do I need a second computer, or do I need to mirror my rig to travel to other places, because I'm so used to being in my comfort zone? Do I have the right microphones? Do I need them, or do we get to go to studios that have them? Do we rent them? All these things that I don't ever think about or have to think about. And I want to think about those things. I don't want to think about, do I like this record or not that I'm working on, because I said yes, because it's a reflex. And I guess this is all to say as a point of reflection on what am I expending my time on, and what's really important. Is the song important? Probably. Is the song important to me though? I don't know. And then I have to decide to play a role in it. So all that to say is, going into the next year, I want to be okay with saying no more. And I said no this year a lot more than I did last year. And I said no last year more than I did the year before. So it's getting more and more no saying. But I imagine a lot of people that will listen to this will think, I can't say no. If I don't say no, I can't get that ground beef to make hamburgers for my wife and I, or, and, maybe get Butcher Box so you can get a hookup on the ground beef.
Ground beef for life.
Ground beef for life.
I got that.
You got that. Yeah. I canceled them. I lost it. I had it too.
No.
I had been experimenting with butcher shops around LA, so I kind of got off that. I wasn't using it, but the ground beef for life is important.
You got bacon for life too.
You got balls?
Yeah, man. Fucking in there.
Right. This is very weird. Super weird.
Why is that weird? You don't want bacon and ground beef for life? What do you want? Almond cheese for life?
Almond cheese.
I just imagine.
No one send us almond cheese.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny.
Well, all I'm saying is that I'm trying to match and meet your compassion earlier towards, I understand where my perspective at my point in my career can be conceived, and not everybody is there. There's a lot of people that are further than I am, right?
Yeah.
That'll also be listening. But I think the fundamental point is that it's really okay and should be something to strive for, to say no and harness your energy and put it into what really matters to you. And that's the goal of any creative.
To tie together the couple of points we've explored later in that episode that I mentioned earlier, the Chase Live with Seth Godin that you sent us originally, Spider.
Yes.
Seth makes note of the fact that he's lived a very privileged life. He grew up in a well-to-do family. He's had an incredible education. He had access to everything he needs, and he's very grateful for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, not everyone has the same opportunity, and that some people are living in very difficult situations, but very few people have no options.
Yeah.
There's usually some choice you can make that will make things better. And he was talking about sort of the goal to lean into that, and that wherever you are, however constrained you are, there's some move you can make that's more positive than believing there's no move you can make. There's something you can do. It might just be that you walk a mile a day. That might be the only change you can make. You might be committed to 14 hours of work. You might be committed to eating the food your mom cooks because you're 17, or whatever. You might be committed to this degree because your dad said you've got to be a doctor like him. Like, in the short term, you might have very few options, but you can walk a mile a day, or whatever, learn Eleanor Rigby on the guitar, or whatever it might be for you. There's something you can do to move the project forward, the project of you and discovering your ability or your artistry or your, what you're about. Of course, he was a whole lot more succinct, but
no, that was really well put. I'm just imagining a chess match as a metaphor, and it's really hard to put yourself in checkmate. I mean, there's always a move to make to get yourself out. And there's always a better starting place too that you might not have access to, but there's counter moves. And I'm just thinking of a chess table at the moment, and it's very hard to checkmate.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one move that rarely works is giving up. And you've often talked about it, Spider, the multiple catch-22s that I've certainly at phases in my life felt. Well, if I leave this and I do that, and you feel trapped. I can't do this because of that. I can't do that because of this. I've got the kids. I've got this commitment to my brother, dad, whatever it is. Yeah. I've been in plenty of those situations, and that belief that you're trapped is really toxic. So Seth's whole point, you should listen to the episode and buy the book that we now have in front of us.
Can't wait to read this.
Watch all the I made a YouTube playlist with like 8 or 9 interviews about this book.
We'll put them in the podcast
Yeah,
notes.
I
We'll
think
do
we
the
should.
grown-up thing.
There's
Along with the definition of bollocking, which the guys,
yeah.
which is angry words spoken to someone who has done something wrong. That seems wrong to me.
Doesn't encapsulate it for you.
I think many a child has been given a bollocking who didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? So it's like that's the Cambridge Dictionary. I'm not buying it. But anyway, she gave me a right bollocking for being late. That's the example.
Is legitimacy of the criticism part of the definition? Because it sounds like you're being falsely. Like bollocks is kind of like bullshit, right? It sounds to me like you're being falsely or excessively criticized.
That's not what it feels.
It's just being told off.
But it's the character.
It's a telling
off. Bollocking it's very rigorous.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not. You tell someone off, but when you give them a bollocking, it feels very different.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's someone ripping you a new one. It's that character.
Gotcha.
It's like playing your mix on a set of PMC speakers in a room that actually sounds good, and you go, "Oh, damn."
It's just short of violence, is what you're saying.
It's. I guess it is violent, just with words. You know,
that's not
violent. Kind of violent.
Yeah.
The other words here underneath: chastising and rebuking, admonition, admonitory, barracking, ball, SB out. I guess SB as a son of a bitch, is it? Be in SB's face.
What?
This is great. The Cambridge Dictionary is one pretty tight. I don't think I've ever been on this site. Lecture, rollicking, scold. There'll be hell to pay. Idiom.
I like that's a Father Rory. It sounds like you're wearing a collar when you say that one.
Yeah. There'll be hell to pay. Father Keane.
There'll be hell to pay. How do you say it?
There'll be hell to pay.
Can you turn on the Irish accent? Like, can you crank it up?
I don't know. I would imitate at home sometimes, like phrases that would make Sydney laugh because of stuff from home. I guess I can, but I can't do it on mic.
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm having a hard enough time not umming and ahhing on mic. It's taking all my concentration not to be like sort of kind of you know, that's using 90% of my clock cycles.
Can I read an excerpt that I just opened up to that?
Yeah, by all means.
This is a word that I hold dear to my success. Number 126.
Oh, that's a page I'm on too.
No way.
Yeah,
no. It's 147. 126 is the whatever. I don't know the format.
Right
oh yeah? No way.
That's a page I'm on.
It looks like it's under the chapter intent, which is another word that I hold dear. But this is consistency is the way forward. Not sameness, not repetition, simply work that rhymes. That sounds like you. We make a promise and we keep it.
Work that rhymes. That's it.
That's
Work
it.
that rhymes.
Yeah. Close it down.
That's what I mean. Seth Godin.
Mic drop.
That's what I mean. It's hard to represent his ideas.
Well, when someone asks questions on Instagram or on a live, it's like asking what created this, what can you attribute your success to? My first word is consistency. People come to me for something that they know they can get again and again and again. It's reliability. And it's something that I aspire to have in all aspects of life. I think when you have consistency and you're working with a similar creative partner or a A&R manager artist, if they're not getting what they know that you're capable of, they're going to give you more wiggle room and more trust and more leniency, right, to bring it home at some point. They're going to expect risks from you, which could create better art in general, right? So there's just more headroom. I don't know. I think that I'm a little bit off this evening on concise sentences. I kind of feel like I'm mumbling about my this episode, so I'm gonna pass it off to someone else. I just liked reading this.
I feel like everything we've said tonight, when I think of our artist that we worked with this morning, I mean, she would have just summed up an hour in one sentence,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what we're doing. We're looking. The whole point of this podcast is we're looking for better language. We're looking for these connection sites to good ideas.
And I also feel like we've been on more than, or at least I'm just taking the blame for it. I think you guys are doing just great.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the other week that if access to information, not the other week, I was thinking the other day in the shower, that if access to information made people smarter, we'd all know everything by now, right? That we would all, there's endless information, but clearly people are getting exposed to good ideas, but they're not landing. They don't have the receptors. They're not connecting to the people where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think that's our project, is to try and gather some good ideas and good experience and make it connect.
And plug them in.
Help it connect to people who are like us, who are where we were at, or people we know, people we care about, people whose experience we can understand, that we have lived or have lived alongside or have compassion for, understand the constraints that they're working with and find ways to plug the good ideas into their brains.
Yeah.
That's so necessarily we're going to do some very ugly and laborious exploration of ideas until we can give you that pithy question.
We try to have a good time doing it at
sure,
least.
Yeah. But it's
that's for sure.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came out of one of our previous episodes was, do your clients know what to expect when they work with you? Do they know what to expect when they work with you?
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard question to ask and to answer. Because when it comes to me, I always wonder, does anybody even know what it means to get a record mixed? Do they even want their record mixed? Is it just the vocabulary? Is it just, this is what happens to the record? And at some stage it goes to mixing. So I actually don't know. And I ask this question a lot to myself. It's like, what do these people expect from you? It already sounds crazy, and not in a good way or a bad way. It just sounds wild. Like, what am I going to do? And like, so.
Well, I suppose if your definition of mixing is the same as everyone else's.
But what is that? Do we even have one?
I mean,
I don't necessarily change balances, right? I don't necessarily compress. I don't necessarily EQ. I don't necessarily do the things.
You're doing a very modern version of mixing.
You're telling people when it's mixed.
Yeah,
but
right.
we talked some about that. But the reason that you're spending such time with Mad Rad and here refining the language around what you do is to get clearer, so your shingle that you hang out can be ever more accurate, so you'll find better clients that want specifically what you do.
Yeah.
It's what we talked to our client yesterday about on the call, of sort of not just being the freest guy or the guy who picked up the phone the quickest or the guy with X, Y, or Z gear.
Or the guy willing to give up his Thanksgiving with his family or whatever.
Yeah. You want to be the guy who they're looking for, the specific thing that you offer and that you have communicated to the world.
Yeah.
So,
And I think this move to take responsibility for the audio engineering of a project from beginning to end is the best way to put into the world what it is you do.
Yeah.
Like what it is you're about. It's a purer form of it than mixing alone.
Yes. Yeah, there's much more potential. But also when I think of someone who's stuck in a groove, they've got rent to pay, or they're in a provincial market, they're somewhere, they're not in LA or New York or Atlanta, right? They're somewhere else, anywhere else, middle of the country or middle of Europe or wherever, Taiwan, and they're making records and they're running a local studio and they're doing local work. If you want to define what it is you do or can do, then you need to take on a spec project with a great artist and get behind them, which is back to why you shouldn't load up that credit card with the 25K speakers.
Yeah.
Or maybe you should at least ask a serious question, is it a good idea?
Yeah.
So sometimes defining who you are is about working with someone to find your voice and communicating it that way to the world. It isn't necessarily going on podcasts and saying, I like, making records that are super wide, or I like records with 80s synths. It's about showing it,
I like that you came back to that $25,000 on the credit card, like the headroom. If you don't have the artist that you can even do your maximum potential work on, then why do you need the $25,000 speakers anyway?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is so much of what we say is in apparent contradiction, because we're encouraging people to, within their budgets, to be able to hear as well as possible. The best room and speaker combo you can do.
You can't hear well with bill collectors.
You cannot hear.
You down.
You don't have available.
That's what I mean.
bandwidth.
It's not a contradiction. It's just seeing both sides of it. I think the proper monitoring is the most important thing we can do. But your room might be more important than the monitoring, right? I mean, we talk about the marriage. Look, this is not really that rich of a contradiction. It's not a mystery that the marriage of room and speaker is the most important thing that a record maker can have, right? So to relinquish doubt and all the things that we've previously talked about. But at the same time, if your concern is more of the level of artistry you're engaging with, interacting with, creating side by side with, that might be the focal point versus your room that you're making weak records in. I don't know, because maybe that the artist that you offer a spec project on has a better room than you, and you get to use their room to make it, right? So you're not necessarily getting paid for this, but you have access to a better environment because they want you to do it at their space. I mean, there's a million possibilities.
There is, and the takeaway, I guess, is just to consider, to sort of interrogate a little more deeply what it is you need or think you need to move forward in your career.
I think that's really what it comes down to. I think the $25,000 speakers are probably important at some point.
Yeah, and the
I don't know what ones you're talking about.
The way we've described it to some people is there are people in this town, just that we know personally, for whom we could upgrade their monitors and their career would take we just went through it with a client who's upgrading in a pretty big way. And his confidence, the text coming back from him on his new room, his confidence level going into his first mix, which was with an iconic artist, like so iconic that we were just making fun of how fucking iconic this artist is in the history of music. And his confidence going into that very first mix was for, an A-list legendary artist. And he's like, great, bring it. I'm good because of this room. So for someone like that, investing money at this point in his career was just the right move. For someone else, it's absolutely taking on crushing debt for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's an important distinction. Thank you.
As Spider always says,
found it.
Everything depends on everything. You know what I mean? It's like...
we need to workshop it.
Yeah.
Michael's here saying he wants to answer this question.
Michael Morgan?
Yeah. I'm wondering which question... and what he means by that. Maybe we should get him on speaker here and fucking get his voice back in this goddamn podcast,
phone
right?
A friend, yeah.
Let's phone a friend. Where is he?
The $25,000 speakers. That's the question. He says, I really want to answer this question. The $25,000 speakers, quote unquote.
Yeah, I'm calling you right now, bro. Let's see if we can get Michael Morgan on the line. We just went into talk radio mode. Yo, man.
Is this working?
It's working, yeah. I can hear you.
Sick.
I mean, this is some low-tech shit, but we're doing it.
Yeah, let's try this.
Are we on FaceTime audio or is it just a call?
It's FaceTime audio on my laptop.
Nice. We miss you, bro.
Yeah, I miss you guys. How's it going over there?
It's good. We're having fun. I think we're all a little tired and we're a little loose, and there's weird shit going on downtown with explosions and flashing lights and high times trucks. But we're good. Well, how are you doing? Talk to us.
I'm doing well. Trying to flex my relaxation muscle as much as I can.
I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's working. You sound pretty relaxed.
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can with it, but I definitely feel relaxed. I've been doing like 5 to 6 mile hikes hikes or walks, either one, every day, and just trying to be outside as much as I can, enjoying the fresh air. Little things, kind of trying to find as many little things that I appreciate, which is a nice adjustment, especially towards the end of this year. And I guess Thanksgiving's tomorrow, so finding things to be thankful for.
Nice.
Seems to be the little ones.
You said, I want to answer this question. Which question, and what did you want to say?
The meaning of life. No, there was something about, you said, Rory, I think you introduced the question about, do your clients know what they get when they work with you?
What to expect when they work with you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That was an interesting one to me because I think about that often, like, and even during this break, for me at the end of this year, kind of what I'm doing is taking I don't want to say a mental health break, but in many ways it is, and spending this last quarter of the year reflecting on the business and what to do going forward. And a lot of that thinking has been around this point. Like, how much do they know and how much do they need to know? Like, how much would actually help them if they knew everything they're about to do in advance versus how much do you kind of let on as you go? Because the brain can only handle so much, and it's kind of overwhelming if they knew everything that was going to happen. For me and the projects that I do, they're a little bit grander, longer. So hearing that stuff could be overwhelming. But I think it's important. I don't know if it's like a binary answer of like, yes, they do, because they could know that we're starting a project. They don't need to know every detail. So I think it's an important consideration, but I think that how much is disclosed is really where the art is. And I think where the discussion is more so than do they know or do they not know? So that was sort of what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm wondering what you guys think in terms of like audio projects. How much should someone know? And I feel like a lot of this, for me, kind of what I deal with is like people don't know design that well. They usually just know the output. So there is some education there, but like most people kind of know the different roles and responsibilities, I assume, in your line of work. So, how much do you guys feel like people need to know? And what are some of those details that people would need to know?
I think it goes to John's point earlier that people have very different definitions of what mixing is. For me, some people in mastering, they come to me and they want a very subtle, they want basically a rubber stamp to say, this is okay, this will translate, this will work. They want very subtle EQ, maybe an extra dB of level, and out the door. Other people want their records turned inside out. Whether that's appropriate or not in mastering, that's a separate, a conversation we have had and can have. But some people want that. They're coming to me for a reinvention. Oh, put the tube compressor on. Put that guy on, and really hit it hard. I want energy. So their conception of what mastering is or can be is very different. So that's a challenge. And I think that if I open my store and say mastering.com, mastering Instagram, whatever, and so people are going to come to me for all of those things. If I call my mastering business tubelove.com, it's like, well, okay, now I'm being clearer. It's like, if you want that smashed tube thing, I'm your guy. If you want clean pop, you've got a Cerebrin mix and you just want a dB of level, Tube Love is probably not the guy to go to, right? Yeah. So this being specific, I think the onus is on us to communicate our values into the world, our taste, our workflow. And I think, something that I've struggled with is trying to be cool, trying to be low key and low friction for people, and then realizing that I didn't give enough information about how I work or how revisions would work. So, something that we talked about before was I used to say, here's the master. I'll be in the studio the rest of this evening or tomorrow if you have notes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so to a young client, I'm saying, I expect notes. That's what they read. So they're like, well, it feels great, but maybe the symbols should be more exciting at the end. They're looking for a note to give me because they think I'm looking for a note. Too. So I've changed my language to be like, let me know how it feels, So I think it's stuff that's worth giving thought to, is how you communicate, how you like to work and what you stand for in your work.
I mean, that feels different than when you guys go into a room as an unfuck consultation. It's like, I imagine you're about to give people everything that they're not expecting.
Yeah. Do you want to take that one, Spider? Because we talked about it this morning.
Often that's true. Sometimes people have listened to the podcast, watched the video on our YouTube channel, and they are ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, they've sort of prepared the room. They've emptied it out. You know, they've sort of cleaned the slate.
Yeah, but have they prepared themselves is what I mean.
Know.
Some people have. They're ready.
Yeah, people are doing writing, you know, take it upon themselves to do little writing projects to clarify their thinking. And the better we communicate to the world, it does help bring value from the first minute if people are prepared, if they know what to expect. I think there are levels of what to expect. There's like what to expect in terms of process. Like there are differences between mix engineers where some mix engineers are not as accessible as Jon is, for instance. Jon is texting with clients. You know, there's this real collaborative openness. It's a different tone. It's a different sort of process to working with other engineers. And that's part of Jon's reputation.
Yes.
Right? It's, you know, I don't know what deliberate marketing efforts have been put into place to communicate this part of Jon's reputation, but it is a natural consequence of a lot of people working with Jon over time, that it becomes known that this is what you get when you hire Jon. You get this relationship thing, this intimacy that's different. I mean, I think this communication thing, which has become, you know, from working with you, Michael, this communication thing has become a lot more tangible to me. This, you know, we're using this word authenticity, and that's one, a term that's been challenged not only by Seth Godin in all these interviews, but also today listening to David Chang.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Like this concept of authenticity is a complex one, and we should get into it at some point. But this communicating what you're about and taking a stand is one aspect of it. It's the client can orient themselves to you based on your values and shared values. So you have a common ground coming in, which allows you to interpret events in a similar way to help maintain a common vision, a consensus. And then there's like layers of process, like leading someone through a process, telling them what to expect, reading each client and their level of sort of comfort or whatever to give them just enough information to keep things moving forward without overwhelming them, as Michael was saying. And I think there are probably other levels of knowing what to expect, like the outcome, right? Like, what do I expect when I send a track to Jon to mix? I expect it to sound immersive, deep, deep low end, an immersive quality, emotional dynamics. You know, there's certain loudness sweet spot. You know, it's there's a sort of outcome expectation. Like if I take a suit to a specific tailor, you know, it's going to be the same thing. This person has a reputation for a certain kind of process, and then a certain kind of outcome, and a certain kind of tone.
Yeah, and then you optimize the chance for success with that, right? You know, you're going to a tailor the night before an event because you know that you're going to get that. Whoa, do we lose Michael?
We got it.
All right,
get him back.
Yeah, I don't even know what I was saying. I'm not feeling on tonight.
That's quite all right.
It's as though this were a conversation, and sometimes
there we
are.
people are tired or distracted.
It's as though.
Yeah.
I don't know, Michael. What do you think? Do you want to add to that?
I lost probably a minute.
Oh, wow.
Just could you do a quick summation?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about the different layers of what to expect. You know, there's process, like leading someone, that sort of leadership quality of leading someone through a process, giving them just enough information to know what to expect next so that they're comfortable without overwhelming them with too much. There's the level of outcomes, like if I send a mix to Jon, or if I go to a tailor with a suit, there's a certain outcome I'm expecting. There's the sort of character of Jon's mix, right? I'm going to him for his signature. And then there's like the tone, right? Like that sort of intimacy, that way Jon works with his clients that's more sort of integrated and accessible and collaborative. And, so if somebody's coming to Jon, those are all aspects of his reputation. And some of that is a natural consequence of working with many clients over many years. The reputation builds, and it's also a consequence of broadcasting values and ideas about these things into the world to reinforce that reputation. And I just wonder if there are any other dimensions to it, to what to expect, if that makes sense.
Well, I think you broke it down really well. Two that came to mind was responsibilities, and I think you said tone.
Yeah.
I think responsibilities would be the other one that I would say. For any sort of any project, there's responsibilities, and sort of what I guess that those are the expectations in many ways, but they're more tactical. I feel like responsibilities are the more tactical parts of the expectations.
I'm getting really
you summarized it really well.
I'm getting really uncomfortable with the word expectations, so I'm going to just push back for a second, because I'm having this remembrance of one of my favorite clients. I've only worked on I think one or two projects with him as a producer, but he explained to me that he's the only person that's ever said this to me, but he deletes his rough mix. He's very talented and he knows how to mix records too. His rough mix when he sends it to a mixer, so not even in his Dropbox. Like he can't even listen to the rough if he wants. He's hearing the mix like it's the song that he created for the first time. Like when I send it to Dale as a master to get it mastered, I listen back. I don't A/B with my mix unless like there's something really weird about it. I'm like, what? I try not to listen. It's a new thing, right? So that's going into it with no expectations. So how often do people, or I'd like to challenge people to go into these processes with no expectations, right? Because when you have expectations, you get let down, right?
But there's not no expectations at all. There is the implied safety net of 1,000 masters with Dale. So there isn't a stated expectation, but it's not a dice roll.
Yeah, if something happens out of the ordinary, you're going to notice.
Yeah, of course. But hold on, what I'm saying is in that moment, though, every time there's no specific expectation each time at all. And why should there be? Like you don't get an expectation when you don't have an expectation of what you're going to receive when you go to a new restaurant for the first time.
In the spirit of our
you
client,
might know the genre
you're expecting
of the
to
food.
receive it.
In the spirit of the client. Wait a second. We're getting bogged down. So I'm thinking of our client this morning, and I'm thinking that she would probably say, when you're making records, you just want to be open, right? Open to open. So there are different strategies,
but that's
different
what I'm
people.
Talking about.
Exactly. But I'm trying to make it feel, when we're getting bogged down in sort of heavier language, but that for some people that means
I don't think so.
Deleting the ref gives that producer a sort of a sense of openness. I think for you, and you're discounting it, the fact that you have so much trust with Dale allows you to be open. You don't listen to, if that was a new mastering engineer, say the label him said, we're going to send it to Colin Leonard or something that you'd never worked with, you wouldn't be as open. I don't think.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have expectations of what he's about to deliver to me,
What if you didn't get it back for 10 days?
I would probably be working on something else for 10 days. What do you mean?
But you expect a sort of timely response from Dale, or at least communication.
Only if I ask him for it.
30 days?
That would never happen.
But that's what I mean. There are embedded expectations in all these relationships.
And embedded trust.
I tried to walk the earth with as little to no expectations of humans, right?
Sure.
So it could be embedded expectation. And I don't think we're getting bogged down in language. I think that people should forfeit expectations as much as possible.
No. I mean,
so
we
should
expect
work
each
it
other
out.
to show up.
But
every week.
that is a consequence of openness.
But did we have no expectations of what dinner would be tonight when we ordered from our favorite place?
No. I had none. No, what do you mean?
There's a comfort in knowing what we're going to get.
But what if you didn't know? Then you'd have no expectation. So what is that change of you knowing? Why should there be more expectation from you knowing?
That's a different thing. Then we're ordering a different thing, and we're going on a different journey. I mean, to me, I'm
no, not necessarily. I think you could know what's coming and forget what's coming, and then there's no expectation when it arrives.
Then how do you know what you paid for? Like you go to a haircutter, like a barber, you expect a haircut for the money you're paying.
But why is it an expectation? Why isn't it a trade of services for currency? What is that? Why is that an expectation?
Because someone assumes responsibility for the haircut.
So responsibility equals the meeting of an expectation.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't sound right to me.
I don't really understand where we're at.
I don't either.
I'm confused.
Okay.
I don't know how the world functions without agreements.
Expectations?
Can I try
Those are
something
different. It can function without agreements and trust, but it can function without expectations, of course.
Can I try a simple
The
example?
expectations are embedded in those two things, is what I'm saying.
They don't have to be.
How does trust work without expectations?
Knowing that
what is the trust built from, if not fulfilled expectations? How do you build trust without fulfilling expectations over and over again?
That's what I think you're discounting with Dale, is the fact that Dale has showed up for you so many times, allows you an openness to whatever he presents.
I need to be better
time.
at this. I don't think that you
I think
need
maybe the level of expectation that you're talking about might be like the character of the thing or details of the thing, but not the thing fundamentally. It's like, I don't expect Dale to do something to the high end, but I do expect the master to show up.
I'm definitely not saying
in
that.
a timely way.
I'm saying something more broad than that. It's like, I don't understand the need to use the language expectations, because then if it's not met, then you're let down, versus if it's not met, then
the trust is broken.
Okay,
then
so let's revisit the question, because we're definitely in the weeds.
Okay.
So the question is, does your client know what to expect when they work with you? Right? So this is for anyone in the creative field. So let me give it.
I want to pull up the definition of expect.
Yeah, I was about to do that.
It just means to consider probable or certain. It has nothing to do with if not met, then sad or angry or anything. It's just saying that this is a probable circumstance. So
let me try.
It's not dependent on. I mean,
no.
probable.
Expectation, a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. A strong belief.
Yeah.
Once belief is put in there, then there's an emotional connection to it. So it does. Does.
Why? Why is it emotional? Like if
belief is emotional. It's a story.
So if I park,
wait. Okay, go.
If I again, I'm trying to like bring it to commerce. Like if I go to the grocery store and I say, and I want like a 16-ounce steak, and I see somebody weigh it, I don't look at the numbers and whatever. Like, I expect to be going home with a 16-ounce steak.
Until you get back there and it's 14.5 because you didn't double check it. Then you're let down because you had an expectation.
It's not emotional.
That's not a sound argument.
It's not. It doesn't need to be emotional.
It doesn't need to be, but it offers up the possibility of it being.
Yeah, that's living.
Okay.
You don't want unnecessary expectations, but you need expectations to have trust and to have relationships.
So we're talking. Let's pull it back for a second.
Yeah,
so does your client know what to expect when they work with you? So let's say in my world, in mastering, some people want the outcome. I listened to one of our previous episodes yesterday or today, and I was in a bad mood, and I alternated between being really annoyed at myself and like getting completely absorbed by what we were saying. It was really interesting, like how I was vacillating between the two. But the aligning on outcomes thing really struck me. And when you ask that question, does your client know what to expect when they work with you? So some people's idea of mastering is that at the end, it will sound shiny, wide, loud, and like what's on their Spotify playlist. It will sound similar so that when they go Katy Perry, Green Day, their song, that it will feel of a piece. It will sound legit, pro, whatever, any way you want to define it. That is an outcome for mastering. So I had my record mastered and it got shiny, loud, bright, wide, pro, legit, whatever, however we want to define that, commercial sounding. For other people, which is more where I come from, mastering, the outcome of mastering is to make the record be the best version of itself. It's still got to hang on a playlist, but I'm inclined towards being much truer to the sound of the record. But I don't state this when someone, so if let's say that a mix engineer that I work with regularly sends me a new client. Hi, Rory, I just meet Nina. We just mixed her song. I don't state in the email chain, here's how I think about mastering. I'm not doing, and I'm making it extreme for the example, I'm not doing shiny, loud, wide, bright, commercial, finished at any cost. I'm going to make your record be the best version of your record. And hopefully it will hang on a playlist when we're done, right? And that depends on a lot of things. But I don't ever say that in an email. So the question, I think it's a good question to not answer. It's a good question to sort of chew on for people is, what is it that you do need to say? And what is it that you should be saying once by the name of your business or your website or how you carry yourself when you do interviews like Matt Rad or whatever? What set of values are you communicating? Are you clearly articulating what you stand for and how you work? Like if I go into a hair salon and the person has shocking pink hair and tats all down their arms and nose rings, it says something about what I can expect. And, your point about, expectation notwithstanding, it says something to me. It gives me a sense of what I'm about to get, as opposed to if I go in and it's a middle-aged lady with a short hair and she's, that says something different. So I think I'm interested in pulling it back to our responsibility as providers of services to ask ourselves, just to sit with that question, are people clear about what they're getting when they work with you? And if not, like we had this, after we left this morning, we talked about a previous project that we had a first meeting with a client that we thought was really productive, but the project didn't go. And I think why it didn't go is because, and I'm speculating, but they came to us expecting one thing and we ended up doing something slightly different. Something that we believe is very useful, that it's truer to what we do.
It's better for the client.
Yeah. But we didn't clearly enough articulate that to them on the way in. And it was an outcome specifically of how they came to us, who referred them and the process. They've,
See, I equate that to a missed opportunity on their part for having expectations.
I don't think that. I mean,
yeah, you don't. I
don't think we can generalize this approach to life. not right now. I mean,
yeah.
I do think there's that's a whole sort of philosophical approach to things about how toxic expectations can be. But when can be. But when you're, as Spider said, when you're engaging in commerce and buying services, you need to have a sense of what it is you're going to get. Otherwise, I mean, what is going to the store if you live a life without expectations in this kind of, you know what I mean? There's got to be a better word.
It just doesn't seem human.
I'm enjoying not being the one who's hung up on a word.
Like attachment, emotional attachment.
Lucky you.
Emotional attachment to expectations is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Can be a problem, but when we can make clear commitments to each other and they're not met, those expectations are not met, it is degrading of trust. When those beliefs about what is going to happen, what people say they're going to do, I don't know a human existence without beliefs about the future.
Well, I guess, a theme, I'm joking about it, about being the one tonight who's not hung up, but like if you look at our 12, 14 episodes, whatever, that are out, quite often I've gotten hung up on businessy words, and I'm sort of into how language feels, right? But what's interesting is that the word mixing or mastering or design means a lot of different things to people.
Yeah, producing.
And we need to account for that. So if we're not at its most fundamental, if we're not clearly articulating what our vision of mixing, mastering, design, or acoustics work is,
right,
then we're pretty much setting ourselves up for trouble, or at very least a lot of lost potential or lost opportunity, So I don't think that we're going to unify the world's definition of what mixing is, but I do think we can own our version of it for how we view it, or mastering, or whatever.
When a woman becomes pregnant, we say what she's expecting, right? We believe in 9 months, child will be born, generally speaking. I think the emotional piece is unmet expectations is a fact of life. We all cope with it. But there are frivolous and unnecessary expectations that we don't want to have. And I think knowing the difference is a kind of wisdom. And I think drawing attention to the concept of expectations, as Jon's done, I think is really crucial to do, because, we can easily become attached emotionally to expectations, beliefs about what will come that are not valuable, not useful. It's a misplaced emotional attachment.
I see it as more freeing to the people around you, to if you expect less from them, or just get rid of the word, then they get to be different.
I'm afraid that's a life without meaning. Like, to not make commitments with people is...
Why is that not a commitment? I'm following you in what you just said about understanding the distinction between the two. Why can't you view it as that without having meaning? I don't follow.
Because if we don't have agreements, if we don't make commitments to each other...
Commitments are different than expectations. What do you mean?
But the commitments produce the expectation.
Not necessarily.
The expectation is what you agree upon. It's that we're going to show up, the two of us, we're going to show up somewhere at 6:00 on Friday. I expect you to be there.
Well, wait, that's a step too far.
What do you mean?
We already agree we're going to be there. Why do you have to expect me to be there? What do you mean?
Because that's what is produced by the agreement.
So what about, let's go back to our question. I think we've got two
If I don't expect you to show up, why would I show up? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a way of phrasing it, sure.
I think we've got two separate conversations here.
Yes.
You're not talking past each other, but we're sort of commingling two concepts. So let's try rephrasing the question that we asked on our Instagram and that came out of the episode. Do your clients know what will happen when they work with you? So not what to expect,
right,
which brings in, gives you...
the baggage.
Yeah, has baggage for you, right? Means something to you. So do they know what will happen? So I think by what will happen means a set of facts about something that everyone would objectively say happened, not how they feel about it. So, Rory knocked over the wine glass and broke it. That happened. I thought it was hilarious. Jon was upset. We felt differently about it, right? So if we ask the question, does your client know what will happen when they work with you? Does that sort of ease your concern? Like, can we address that question? And then I think we should explore the expectations problem, question, space in a full episode, because it's really intriguing but it's...
We should map out the frivolous expectations versus like, I expect people to stop at stop signs, and that's so the world works.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I'm not really ready for that conversation. I need to
either.
think a little about it for it to be useful.
To expect everyone to come to a complete stop at the exact right line, and every time somebody violates that, you get upset. Yeah, of course, that's a bullshit expectation. And yeah, we should map that out a bit.
So
I was sorry, just one last bit on that, because I think we should move on. You're right. I'm talking about it in a creative aspect, not in the way the roadmaps work, right? You're expecting someone to do something creative every time. That's impossible. You can't you can't expect an outcome in a creative field every time.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same from everybody,
Yeah.
and you'll be let down by the outcome, or more open to a new or different outcome if you don't have the expectation.
Unrealistic expectation.
Unrealistic expectation. I'm not saying no expectations exist in the world, but I'm talking very specifically about the field that we're talking. I thought I was clear that we're talking about the creative output, and I don't want to put expectations on people because I want them to do what they felt in the moment, and then I can decide whether it's good, bad, better, worse, and you make a value judgment.
So you're talking about the dark side of expectation is sort of the constraint or the impediment it can place in front of creativity. How it can constrict creativity.
Yeah,
and how you hear it.
Yeah,
mostly that.
Yeah,
you're priming yourself for, in a way.
Yeah, me being a little slow tonight. I thought I was clear in my first rebuttal to it, but I guess I clearly wasn't.
That's
a very interesting topic.
Yeah,
I would love to parse it.
We're honing the language. So I think so. I mean, back to the original question. I still think it's a good question.
I do too. I don't have a solid answer because what I do is different on a different day. And that's why I brought you guys back into the question, which is when you go in, someone might have an expectation and you go so far from that. I mean, you're going to make people reach into their soul a little bit
I don't know
more than just their four-walled room.
Positive.
I don't know either.
Yeah, that they're not clear that that's where we're headed.
Yeah, but the fact of having and my whole point of the use of the language of expectation is the less expectations you have, the more open you could be to something different happening in that room. Like when you come over here and we press play on something and you're like, I can get you 2 more dB of headroom. If my expectation is of you liking what I just played you and you're just going to be enthusiastic about the amount of low end, and then you bring up that, I'm going to be like, well, wait, why didn't you just tell me the low end's good?
Yeah.
Why did you just open up a whole can of worms of what is wrong with my rig? But because I don't have expectations of what you're going to say when I press play, I'm open to anything that you say. Always, forever and always.
It's important.
And that to me has to do with the negative connotation of the possibility of having expectations. And people are let down when they're built up expectations. Like the Grammy nominations for 2 days ago, people expected so-and-so to get nominated for 7 Grammys, and there's 20 people that work on that record, and that person didn't get nominated for any Grammys, which is a bummer. And those 20 plus people are really let down by their expectations versus it's a crapshoot anyway. We don't know what it's going to be, and then nobody would be let down, and then people can move on.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I was coming from.
I think it's a whole episode theme.
Yeah, it's really important. It's something you work on in meditation too.
Yeah.
Noticing these sort of frivolous, unrealistic, burdensome, future priming expectations that are serving. They're a sort of fantasy about the future you want that's out of your control.
Yes.
Right? It's stuff that's out of your control. And then when that expectation is violated, you are weakened.
But yes, can you expect me to show up to a reservation at the time that we agree to go?
Yeah.
Sure. But that's trust that I'm going to follow through with my commitment.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be phrased as an expectation.
Let's break this out on an episode.
Okay, fair.
It's too complicated.
Fair. I quit.
We're in a circle and we're not yet.
Is Michael still there?
Yep.
Do you have anything to say in closing, Michael? I know that was we got in the weeds, in the deep water, and there was a hole in the canoe, and etc. But
the best always do.
Yeah.
I mean, put a bow on it and make it pretty, and give us something to close the episode with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning to really just accept the way things are and realize what feels good and what doesn't. And I don't know. I think that is it's related and not to what just happened, what we were just talking about. I think like anyone listening, a good thing to practice is recognizing what things bother you, what things feel good. That's been something I've been doing a lot the past few weeks, and it's served me pretty well. That's it.
Sounds healthy. You're taking a break.
The doctors call this the feel-good meter.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the basics of medicine. Is it better or worse? Does it make you feel bad, make you feel good?
Yeah. There's merit in that for sure.
That's it.
Well, I'm
totally different topic, but I think it's a good way to close.
I'm down. Well, thank you for joining us. It's low tech, but it worked. And it's good to hear your voice, man.
How it sounds.
It sounds fine. I mean, I'm listening in the headphones and I can hear you 100% clearly. It's great. You know, so I mean, I'm sure Dylan will be like, "What the fuck are these guys thinking?" Putting an iPhone up against the mic.
We've created a new challenge for Dylan: an iPhone speaker and a human on the same microphone. So
let it be what it is.
Dylan.
Let's just let it be what it is.
It was.
I hope you didn't have any expectations about how this is coming.
It was impromptu, but it's good to hear Michael's voice, and we need your input in this conversation. We miss it.
Yeah, man. I got all the gear here now.
Good.
So I'm thinking next Wednesday could be a good time.
We're down. All right,
we'll be here.
Yeah. Good to talk to you.
All right, man.
Take care. Rest up. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about this expectations thing.
If you haven't caught yet, it means a lot to me.
Yeah. No,
I hear too many people when they're talking to me or asking for advice or just venting to me, talking about how much they were let down based on expectations. So it's a common thread in the creative industry, or at least amongst my peers. So I hold it in high regard.
I wonder if we can parse expectations from hopes and dreams. You know, I think there's something there.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff to separate from their sense of themselves, from, as you say, hopes and dreams, from what they expected to happen factually. You know, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. I'm down to come back and with a little bit more studied.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually feels like the first episode that we'd have to think about a way into that conversation that's useful.
It could be an expert that comes on as a guest to talk about this
tonight.
Too. Like, I wonder. Yes. Oh, you know what? I wonder if we could find a music psychologist to come talk about demoitis mix with expectations. Because I want to talk about demoitis with someone that understands the psychology of the brain and the memory of the
familiarity and all the
And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with expectations too, in a sense. I think that might be a really broad topic spectrum to touch on.
Yeah, loss aversion based on a fantasy.
Yeah,
that's deep.
It's deep. Do we have any music psychologist friends?
Sure we can.
Anybody?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
shout us out.
Somebody send us links. Somebody.
Yeah, if there's someone you respect or know, hit us up. We're starting to pull together our list of first guests,
our short list,
and it's
looking good.
It's looking really good.
And I really want to talk and be open to discussing, over the course of many episodes, the idea behind demoitis, because it's a word that's been used my entire career and nobody really knows what it means.
It seems to be true, but it's still mysterious.
It's still so mysterious. So I'd love to talk about that then. So maybe we hold this expectations conversation to correlating it to that. And
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Well, cool.
I don't know. Clearly, I was triggered by that word.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, there's if there's heat there, we should figure it out.
No, it's important. I mean, if you've been doing work to unwind unnecessary suffering-causing expectations, and you're noticing it causing suffering in other people, I mean, it's a really valuable thing to understand.
Yeah,
I sort of went on this no expectations trip when I was a teenager, and it was really powerful for me. It really helped me. I think a lot of people get value out of it, you know. sort of understanding the value, the value of fundamental expectations and the potential for suffering from frivolous ones.
Mm-hmm. I think it's huge. But as a business, you do need to have, your clients will have expectations, and you do need to manage them and frame them
and guide them,
shape them. Our deal memo, what we do, what we do not do.
Yeah,
we describe in 3 or 4 bullet points. Here are the services we provide when we build a studio with you, and here are the things we don't do.
Yeah,
we're not contractors. We don't project manage typically, and it's as simple as we can make it to sort of so that by the end of page 1, people know that they're going to be dealing with the contractor and paying them directly, not paying us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a turnkey operation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. There's merit, but that's a separate conversation to what you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. I think that's important to recognize as well, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the split that I think we found tonight. So
I'd wonder how to, like when we get, my friend comes to mind who I want to be our first guest. I wonder what he would say, what he expects from a mix of mine, because we've done so many, and wonder how he'd answer that question, because I don't know what people expect from me. I think you said a few characteristics that one could potentially get out of me.
This is the point that I think I was making that wasn't landing with you, but it might be clearer when we flip it the other way around, is that the fact that you've delivered so often for said client means they're open to what the mix actually is. They're freer to take it for what it is, because they're less, they're not gripping the table going, well, I don't know what I'm getting back. If that was a completely, if the label took their record, sent it to a mixer, no-name mixer, someone they've never heard of, and said, well, we've got this guy, he's hot shit, he's in fucking Norway, right? He's doing it. And you don't know, you can't find any information, or the client doesn't know. Their disposition listening to it is not going to be one of excited wonder. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like, they're going to be nervous, because we've all been screwed by having our stuff mixed or mastered by some random dude, or, you know what I mean? So I think the fact that someone has worked with you often gives them comfort to be more open.
Yeah.
We should close out.
Down, tired.
Yeah.
What a chaotic night. Jeez.
Yeah, it was kind of chaotic energy. It's been a
chaotic week.
A chaotic week, and being humans in conversation, it reflects that. So
I'm ready to sleep for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to lay down for 5 days.
It's been a busy year. It's been a long year. So I hope this is gonna be released. We're at 3 weeks or something like that.
Weeks,
so
also, by the time this is released, or by the time we record next week, I'll have a Christmas tree in my loft for the first time.
Man.
Nice.
So we'll be recording next week next to a Christmas tree.
Really?
Excellent. Well, we'll get some.
Maybe
photos
we
of
should
that.
get the Hazelriggs to do a Christmas version of the theme song, so we can have like sleigh bells added to the boom 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 dun, dun, and do like sleigh bells on the down.
Can you just get like a general MIDI like sleigh bell sound?
I'm sure I have samples.
We have sleigh bells
just
here.
Yeah, I could just add it. Yeah.
Just roughly guess the tempo and just put it in on the
do
grid.
it live, bro.
Yeah, do it live.
No,
we're doing it live.
Yeah, I like my spiders
fucking grid.
I'm kidding.
This grid.
Everyone, till next time. Conversations.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrigg brothers.